Inorganic feed phosphates play an extremely important role in the growth and reproduction of livestock. And it's no surprise they're a sizable expense when it comes to animal diets. In fact, in many monogastric diets, they're the most expensive single ingredient after energy and protein. But recently, there have been considerable price changes for feed phosphates in major markets. So why is this happening? Russia's invasion of Ukraine was followed by a sharp increase in the price of feed phosphates. This is because Russia is a major supplier of the finished phosphate products and of some of the inputs for phosphates production, such as sulfuric acid, which comes from oil refining.
In an already tight market, then the war broke, so prices went up because there was not a lot of availability.
Sylvia Traganida, senior editor for phosphates at ICIS, makes it clear that tightness in the phosphates market was actually seen before the invasion even took place. For one thing, even before the war, Russia had put in place export quotas in order to ensure domestic supply of phosphates to its own farmers. China, another major producer, had also stopped phosphate exports and reduced production. The price of natural gas had increased in Europe, adding to production costs, and the rise in freight rates had also impacted the final costs, as these products are shipped long distances. Still, the invasion had a notable impact. Physically, the Black Sea, once a major transit point for these products, has been closed for shipping, making logistics even more complicated. And it has also created a lot of uncertainty among buyers.
Another issue that affected all these products was also the psychological factor and the uncertainty of where is the availability going to come from? What are going to happen with the sanctions? What is Russia going to do? What is China going to do? What is the US going to do? Is the US going to buy sulfuric acid from Europe and Russia?
So what influence has this had on the prices being paid for feed-grade products like DCP, dicalcium phosphate, or MCP, monocalcium phosphate?
Prices really skyrocketed to begin Q2. That was because of high feedstock cost and a lot of concern about supply from Russia that it just would not be available. So whereas in Q2 of last year, we saw monocalcium feed phosphate, MCP, that's the most widely used feed phosphate in Europe. It was around 575 euros per ton in Q2 of last year. Whereas in Q2 this year, we were seeing 1,500 euros per ton to start, and even much higher than that. Phosphate supply concerns have now eased somewhat in Europe, leading to prices falling from the highs seen at the start of Q2, but they're certainly not at year-ago levels at this point. Right now, we're hearing as low as about 1,400 euros to some of the larger feed mills in Europe, and premixers picking up larger volumes have mentioned slightly lower prices than that.
Those price increases were not all based on irrational sentiment. Although in the end, Russian manufactured material is coming into the European market, sanctions on individual oligarchs have impacted the production at least one European MCP supplier, Lifosa, the Lithuanian subsidiary of Russia's Eurochem.
At the beginning of the Russia-Ukraine invasion, a lot of buyers in the EU were concerned about the security of supply. Production of feed phosphates from Russian companies are Eurochem with its subsidiary Lifosa and Phosagro represent about 30% of European supply. But so far, feed phosphates are exempt from EU sanctions. So although shipping has been challenging, buyers and sellers have found ways to get product from point A to point B. Phosagro in Russia is operational and shipping feed phosphate. They tell us the volume shipped during Q2 was nearly the same as Q1. And all of their Q3 material is already in their warehouses in Switzerland, ready to go to customers. The company exports a little over 50% of the MCP it produces in Russia, while the rest is consumed within the country. Eurochem in Russia produces defluorinated phosphate, or DFP, which is mostly sold in the US, and its subsidiary is Lifosa, and they are in Lithuania. They produce MCP, which is sold in Europe and also other places abroad. According to trade data and shipping documents, we still see Eurochem shipping. They're shipping to South America, and if necessary, US buyers will even ship the product from Europe to Brazil, Brazil to the US. So they're still getting the material to the customer one way or the other. Lifosa is not operating right now and has not been since at least March, but is working through legal issues and paperwork to come back online.
The simple truth is that there is no single cause behind the situation in the feed phosphates market. Expensive inputs like natural gas or sulfuric acid, a complicated logistics situation, and major phosphates producers restricting exports or decreasing production all had a part to play in the increasing prices. And sanctions have taken one Russian-owned feed phosphates manufacturer located in Lithuania completely offline. In short, even if the post-invasion panic has begun to ease in some quarters, this remains a market with many moving parts. For updates on this evolving story and insight on the future of feed phosphates in animal diets, check out the Feedinfo podcasts and interviews linked below. And of course, Feedinfo subscribers can access regular price reports for the European and American feed phosphates markets, as well as for other additives and geographies.